Hey everyone, we are here with Mike from Hummingbot. He's the CEO and co-founder. He'll be doing a talk on open source high frequency trading, Hummingbot's plan to democratize high frequency trading. All right, I'll let him take it from here. And can you guys confirm the chat once he starts talking that you can hear him?
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Shinju, for organizing this conference. I'm really happy today to being able to present our plan to you. Hummingbot has been around for a while, but we haven't really done a lot of marketing. We're sponsoring this conference kind of like a coming out party for us and really telling the world about what we're really up to. Before I get started, let me go through a quick disclaimer. What we're doing here, what we're talking about today is just for educational and demo purposes only. Any kind of like demo I show of Hummingbot or anything I say is not legal or financial advice. Hummingbot is a piece of software that you run. So when you use it, you're responsible for your own use. Also, we have a number of sessions at this conference today. So I wanted to tell you about the other ones we have. So this one is really about just kind of like our general plan as a company. My co-founder, Carlo, will be giving a workshop on liquidity mining with Hummingbot later on today at about 2:30 Pacific. I'm moderating a Quant panel on Sunday, tomorrow at about 5:30 with Quant's portfolio managers from Virgil Capital and Galois Capital, two of the leading quant funds in the crypto space. So don't miss that one. And finally, on Tuesday about 4 o'clock Pacific, one of our partners, a quant fund that uses Hummingbot day to day, is going to show and demo how they use Hummingbot from a professional standpoint. So and I think this conference, we really feel like it's like kind of like the community conference for traders. And since our community are all kind of like traders and developers, we wanted to really showcase what Hummingbot is to this conference. So kind of getting started with high frequency trading. So our plan is really to open source high frequency trading. But before I go into what our plan is, let me tell you about how HFT actually works. So I spent about 9 years in finance before going to tech, so I'm pretty familiar with this world. But it's really, if you read the book, The Flash Boys by Michael Lewis, that book does a really good job of describing how these guys make money. So in that book, what they describe is the building of a cable, this cable that goes from Chicago all the way to New York. And this cable was like, it's just, underground, it costs billions of dollars. And the reason why these quant trading firms and hedge funds wanted to build this cable was to be able to basically make a trade in Chicago whenever the New York Stock Exchange in New York, moved in price, and the same thing on the other side. So when the CME prices changes, being able to propagate that information over to New York at the speed, like millisecond scale speed, and be able to do trades there, gave you an edge over all the other players in the market. And so I think that's a good example of how HFT firms make money. They exploit the differences between markets. And in doing so, they're basically moving billions of dollars of capital, across different markets so that whenever a piece of information is traded on one market, the effect of that information propagates across other markets, whether it's equities, debt, options, or futures. And so over time, the larger these firms get, the more sophisticated their algorithms get, the more power they wield over the market as a whole. And this is true, and not just in traditional finance, but also in crypto. So in crypto, except that crypto is a much more nascent industry. So in traditional finance, HFT firms, they operate on hundreds of markets. There are 13 equities exchanges in the US, but there are also international exchanges, futures, options, credit markets, and rate markets. So there are hundreds of markets where they can kind of exploit the differences. But because this market is 90 years old in traditional finance, standardization has developed. So there's a protocol called FIX that basically all markets in traditional finance use to standardize how order messages are sent. But because these HFT firms, they currently the New York Stock Exchange rebates about 80% of their fees to HFT firms. And instead, the NYSE they make money by charging for access, charging for co-location, for API access and data. There exists a really large barrier of entry into this traditional HFT market. And so only the large firms can really play, whereas small firms can't afford to pay the barriers of entry needed to even enter the market. Now, crypto is a much more nascent market, but despite the fact it's only been around for the last 5 years, we already have thousands of individual markets. And this summer, after the rise of Uniswap and Balancer and Curve, we're seeing even more markets because now anyone can just deploy a piece of code onto the blockchain and create a viable automatic market maker, or AMM. And in certain markets, it can actually be very competitive. So if you're kind of like the liquidity provider for the WETH DAI market on Uniswap, or if you're a market maker for the Bitcoin Tether market on Binance, you're facing a ton of competition. But if you're trading on a tiny market, whether it's a small AMM or a small exchange, let's say in somewhere like Brazil or Turkey or the Philippines, you may face a lot less competition. So if you can kind of compare these two markets, it's clear that HFT still has a lot of value and in crypto, because its job is to make the markets more efficient, but it's also better for smaller players because of how inefficient and new the crypto industry is. And so that's why we saw an opportunity, because originally we had started our company running a hedge fund, but given our background as engineers and given the need for software to connect all these markets in crypto, we felt there's an opportunity to build, to take an open source approach to trading software in the space. And the reason we wanted to do open source is because the concept of an open source trading bot may seem kind of crazy at first. It's like, how can you share all your private information, your trading strategy with the world? But I think if you think about how software is designed, open source software really runs the world today. Everyone is running servers based on using Linux. We use our phones are Android, and our databases are MySQL. And the reason is because you can design software where the public part of the software is simply the functionality, and the private information, the data, your secret strategies are kept in a file that's only run locally. So it's not exposed externally to the world. And that's exactly how Hummingbot is designed. It's just like a Bitcoin mining client, like CG Miner, where it's a local piece of software that you run either deploy on your local machine or on a cloud computer. In that way, because we take a modular architecture, you can write strategies that run in any exchange, or you can write an exchange connector that can run any strategy. And so this modular approach, kind of like a box of Legos, really enables contribution by anyone in the world. So the way that we design Hummingbot, it's a text-based command line application. So it looks like this. So it's clearly, we haven't spent a ton of time on the graphical user experience. And that's because we've spent our engineering bandwidth on the low-level technical architecture, making it fast, reliable, and trying to maintain a connection to the exchange on a 24/7 basis, because that's what you need in order to have a reliable bot that runs while you're sleeping. In addition, we really focus on speed by making sure that we have a WebSocket connection with any protocol or exchange. And also, a lot of the code is actually written in a language called Python, which allows you to write Python, but it converts to C when it runs so that it runs faster. But despite how performant Hummingbot is, it's actually the performance requirements are actually pretty limited. It can run on commodity hardware. We've had some users who are running 20 instances of Hummingbot on a single Raspberry Pi. So you can also just try it out on the free tier on Amazon, on Web Services or Google Cloud as well. So even if you're just a student or an individual, anyone can run this piece of software. But the real power of Hummingbot really comes from our community. So we have about 7,000 members on Discord, where we have 24/7 support. We have channels that are specific to developers. And it's also what we actually use for our internal chat as well for our company. And that's why I and a lot of the other engineers and founders of Hummingbot are always on our Discord answering questions from users. We also have a YouTube channel where we have a lot of videos that show people how to use Hummingbot. And we just started an initiative called Hummingbot Academy to teach people how to actually do algo trading and market making from a theoretical perspective. And we'll be adding more videos on that as well. But we also have a lot of contributors. So we have over 60 contributors to our public GitHub, and includes projects like Cello, where one of the Cello developers built the OKX connector for Hummingbot. It also includes centralized exchanges like Bitstamp, where Bitstamp has built the Bitstamp connector. Decentralized exchanges like Loopring, IDEX, and Bamboo Relay, who have built their own Hummingbot connectors as well. So Hummingbot, I think, is really developed into a project that's serving the long tail of protocols and exchanges in crypto. So you may be asking, how does an open source project actually make money? And I'm happy to report that we've discovered a fairly unique business model. Overall, the concept is to give away the software for free and monetize from the institutions, the larger companies who benefit from the users' collective trading activity. So these are primarily exchanges and protocols in the crypto space. Primarily, we operate something called Hummingbot Miner, which allows you to do liquidity mining on order book exchanges. My co-founder, Carlo, will be going into more detail in a workshop today at 2:30 Pacific about how liquidity mining works and how it differentiates from liquidity mining on AMMs like Uniswap. In addition, we have partnerships with exchanges that give us volume-based fee share rebates. But I think the most interesting thing is this year, we've discovered that arbitrage bots have a lot of value for protocols who are building automatic market makers or AMMs. So in June, we launched a strategy called Cello Arb, which allows anyone to arbitrage between the Cello blockchain, which has an AMM, and any other central exchange where the Cello tokens trade. And this bot is interesting, not just because it allows users to make money, but because it actually serves a core function in the Cello blockchain. You see, the Cello AMM, the Cello stablecoin CUSD relies upon this AMM to actually kind of basically peg the price to $1. So by performing arbitrage, Hummingbot users are actually helping to stabilize the price of CUSD in the Cello blockchain. So it's kind of accomplishing through kind of like algorithmic, trading. It's like a kind of decentralized way to ensure stability for stablecoin. And so it's an interesting model, and at least so far, it's actually worked pretty well. So ever since CUSD has launched at the end of June, we've had a number of Hummingbot users run the bots, run arbitrage bots. They're picking up arbitrage opportunities almost every day. But by doing so, the CUSD price has so far been pretty stable around $1. And so what we're finding is that a lot of AMMs, actually have a need for arbitrage bots to kind of stabilize and to make the prices more sane. So we've entered into similar partnerships with Balancer and Terra. So we'll be launching similar Balancer ARB and Terra ARB strategies in Hummingbots in the next 1 to 2 releases. So here's what's coming next to Hummingbot. This is actually our public roadmap that we publish on our GitHub. So every column is basically one release. So 0.32 shows the tickets that we closed and the feature we pushed in the last release, which was, I think, about 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago. 0.33 is one we're working on right now. So we're currently working on a connector to Binance US. We're reviewing the OKX connector that the Cello developer built. We're also shipping a new connector for Binance Futures, which supports perpetuals for the first time. And we're also working on the Terra and the Balancer new arbitrage strategies. In the next release, we're planning to ship. We believe that once we have the Balancer strategy live, either we or someone from our community will probably build something similar for Uniswap, which I think a lot of people in the market will likely look forward to. And in addition, we're going to start to build Hummingbots and make it more integrated into all the different external services out there that people may want to use. So, for example, you'll be able to pull signals from TradingView and use those signals in Hummingbot, and you'll also be able to send Hummingbot data externally and control it better with Telegram, or even if you want to kind of send your Hummingbot integrated with Twitch or other services. I think this API layer will make that a lot easier. And finally, we're going to start working on making strategies easier to write. We've spent the last few months making connectors easy to write, and I think we're going to do the same thing for strategies. So we're going to allow users to write strategies in Python, and we're also going to ramp up our developer tutorial that shows you how to build your own custom Hummingbot strategies. Overall, our focus at Hummingbot is currently to really focus on our users who are developers and serious traders, to allow them to basically do whatever they want with our framework, and to make it a lot more customizable and flexible for them. And so, and by doing so, we think that we're developing into the bridge between the centralized and the decentralized worlds in crypto. Even when we first started, our very first strategy was what we call the cross-exchange strategy that allows someone to provide liquidity on 0x relayers while hedging the risk on centralized exchanges like Binance. So this thesis that there should be a shared public utility that connects these disparate worlds in crypto has always been our thesis. And we're incredibly excited that this summer, with the advent of DeFi protocols, I think that there's even a larger need for this kind of shared public infrastructure. And our goal is not just to serve the largest players in crypto, but also the smallest. I think this model allows us to serve the long tail of protocols and exchanges, probably more so than many other projects in crypto. And we want to continue doing that because I think crypto is about freedom, about the freedom to anyone can create an exchange, anyone can create a token, and anyone can be able to leverage this technology to assure financial freedom for themselves. So we want to serve both the large players and the small players in our industry. And so because of that, we've taken steps to experiment with governance recently. We have a lot of stakeholders. And you can think of every Hummingbot release as a series of decisions that we're making on behalf of our community. Which of these 200 issues outstanding should we prioritize? Which exchanges should we add? Which strategies should we add? And so what we're starting to do is experiment with governance to let the community influence the decisions we're making. So in the first version, we did a poll on Discord where we asked our community to select the next exchange connector that we would merge in. The candidates were Biaxi, a centralized exchange, Loopring, a decentralized exchange, and finally OKX, a large centralized exchange. Going into this vote, it was really like a small experiment we just ran on Discord. So I thought maybe we'd get like a few hundred votes, and OKX, since it was the largest brand, would win in a landslide. But what actually happened was that actually Biaxi and Loopring, we saw many more votes from those communities. And the reason I think is because even though those exchanges were smaller, having the Hummingbot connector merged in and becoming an official connector mattered more, had more value to their communities. And so a lot of people from the Biaxi and the Loopring communities came to our Discord to vote. However, because Discord, anyone can create accounts, I think there's also some accusations of like bots and people creating dummy accounts and so forth. So unfortunately, it was also a lesson for us that in order to actually do governance properly, we needed to spend more engineering time to build a kind of like an experience that would actually ensure authenticity and ensure that people had a fair experience. So in the next version, we're building this into Hummingbot Miner, our liquidity mining platform. So and your voting power will equal how many rewards you earn in the last week. And even if you earn, let's say 1 cent, we're going to round that up so you have at least 1 vote. So essentially $1 of rewards equals 1 vote. But even if you just earn a little bit, we're going to round that up. So so in the second version of the vote, which will also be a question in terms of which connector we're going to merge into the code base, the vote for that, you'll use your Hummingbot miner rewards to as your voting power, and so that'll be launched in about 2 weeks. So, and the reason we're doing this governance is because Hummingbot is not just about us. So here's a quick example of how we engage with various partners in our ecosystem. So Loopring, actually, the decentralized exchange actually won the vote that I just mentioned, and so so we work with them to merge in their connector into the last release of Hummingbot. And it turned out that their connector was actually built by a trading firm called Link, based in Toronto. And so we worked with Link over the last month to review their connector, to get all the bugs fixed, and it became part of the last official release of Hummingbot. Now, Link uses connector for their own trading, but now they can also earn some revenues for the bounties for building and maintaining this Loopring connector. But because Link is a third-party firm, they also work with other exchanges. And so recently they built a new Hummingbot connector for Bolsa Crypto, a Brazilian exchange, and they'll also kind of be taking that connector and submitting that for governance and making that part of the Hummingbot community connector experience as well. But Bolsa Crypto, because now Bolsa Crypto has joined the Hummingbot ecosystem, they're going to help out and translate some of the Hummingbot core materials to Portuguese for the Brazilian industry. And so I think this is a good example of how we work with different partners in our ecosystem, but the real beneficiaries are the users in these various communities. The folks who are trading on Loopring get to use an algo trading bot that's customized for the Loopring exchange. Same for Bolsa Crypto, and our users as well have more options where they can run their bots. So I think an open source community is the best expression of HFT, and this is why we're excited to take this model and build upon it, and hopefully grow into an ecosystem that's truly decentralized and community owned and operated. And this is kind of like at a high level what we think this ecosystem looks like. So there's the open source code base that anyone can contribute to and anyone can use for free. And they can use that free tool to run bots and earn rewards on our Hummingbot miner platform. As you're earning rewards, you're earning voting power along with your rewards. And now you can use those votes to vote in our governance system and influence and shape the roadmap for the open source code base. So I think this model, we're really excited about this because to us, it's a way to build the same HFT industry that exists in traditional finance. But by doing this way, it lessens the dominance that large firms have over small players. Large players are always going to have an advantage in terms of capital versus small players. That's kind of, can't really change that. But I think what you can change is access to technology. Just because you're small doesn't mean you have to use, crappy software. The best of breed software should be available and free to everyone. And that's why, for us, it's really about a mission. The mission is to democratize trading and to create a fairer financial system that way. Finally, I wanted to pitch, we just launched a new version of the Hummingbot website. And so Hummingbot Academy is our new kind of place for educational content. We recognize that HFT can carry a very steep learning curve, and we're committed to helping our users understand all the risks and understand all the ins and outs of the trading strategy that we develop. So please check this out. There's quick start guides for a bunch of our strategies. And if you have any questions, we have a 24/7 support team on Discord who can help you out. Thanks. Hope that that's helpful, and that's about it. I think I have a few more minutes, so I will. I'll kind of go through these questions and try to answer as many as I can. Okay, so I see one. Let's see. I see one here. By doing that, don't you think ultimately you're eliminating input from general users. Yeah, so I think maybe let me just quickly describe exactly how Hummingbot works. So I would say every user who uses Hummingbot has to actually input their own values, because Hummingbot is a piece of software, but every strategy uses a configuration file that's user defined. And so you can define that strategy by essentially going through our configuration process and answering a series of questions, like what is a spread, what is your order amount, which exchange you want to trade on, what strategy do you want to use. So in essence, everyone is defining their own strategies when they use Hummingbot, but they're building it off of our templates that we provide. So one more question. How can you run HFT market making with DEX? Won't it cost lots of fees? That's a great question. Yes, I would say currently with Ethereum gas prices the way they are, I think the minimum order amounts you have to kind of use on decentralized exchanges, whether it's Xerox relayers like Radar Relay or Uniswap or Balancer, has to be pretty high, because the cost just for a single transaction is going to be something like $1 to $10 due to gas prices. However, that's why a lot of exchanges are moving to layer 2. So IDEX and Loopring are on layer 2. In addition, we're seeing a lot of exchanges also pop up outside of Ethereum. So Serum is a good example. Serum is a new exchange on the Solana blockchain. And because it's on Solana blockchain, it can put the entire order book on chain. So I think there's many models for decentralized exchanges, whether it's in Ethereum or other blockchains or on layer 2. And I think the experimentation space going forward is incredibly vibrant. And this is great for traders, because as traders, we want to make money anywhere we can. And so the more models there are, the more DEXs there are, the more opportunities for us to run bots and capture the differences between these different markets. And then I think I have one more question. How do you see this affecting and benefiting HFT space? Oh, NFT space. Yeah, so the NFT space is really interesting. I've had a number of conversations with folks in the NFT space about how liquidity can help NFTs. Overall, I think that NFTs are interesting because, yes, you can in theory actually provide liquidity for NFTs. I think what you need is a way to kind of like systematically price NFTs based on their characteristics. So, for example, if you look at like Gods Unchained or or Token Trove, I think their marketplace, there are thousands of cards for sale, and I think what's needed is a way for either a market participant to quickly assess the price of something out there, and I think because if you use it based on prior trading, it's really hard to do that because very little trading occurs for a single idiosyncratic NFT. But if you can kind of price based on whatever like rarity or other attributes, there might be a way to actually kind of like market make a scale for NFTs. So yeah, I think that's about it. So I think just in the final few minutes, I just want to say that I've been in crypto for the last 3 years, but before that, I was in finance for probably 10 years. So to me, actually, the reason I'm excited about crypto is because I see this replacing everything that I used to do when I was a trader at Citibank and JP Morgan. So back then, I worked on a huge trading floor, and everyone on that trading floor was there because they were needed to get financial products tradable. Because just have a single bond or a single stock and make that tradable, you needed like bankers, salespeople, middle office, risk management, traders, syndicate, and just all these people just to get something to work. And so that's why it didn't make sense, for Citibank to get out of bed for anything less than like $100 million. But what's fascinating and interesting about crypto is that you don't need any of those people. With decentralized markets and economic incentives, crypto has proven that you can just let the market do its job, which means that any type of financial assets can be tradable online as long as you set up the right system of incentives to allow that to happen. And so this is an incredibly important sea change for the entire crypto market. So I hope that we all appreciate how how interesting the world that we're operating is in. So.
Yeah, this was a really great talk. Thanks, Mike, for kicking
Sure.
off day 2.
No problem. Thank you, Shinju. And
Yeah,
good luck to everyone else. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye. We're going to go